I feel like we have so much headroom. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Magic Box. I am Tristan Sean Gregson here with Kyle Eck. It's exciting times as usual as we are deep in Dragon's Maze spoiler season.
So deep. Right in the thick of things. Another, what? Another week and the full set will be out?
I don't know. I think so.
Something like that?
The way Wizards does it nowadays, where it's like everything exciting is really like front-loaded.
Yeah.
You kind of get all the mythics and the rares like come out through various avenues, and then kind of at the end you just get like 80 cards kind of shit at you all at once. I mean, that's how it is with a big set.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a different feeling now with spoilers, and maybe it's me because I've been playing Magic for so long, but
it's a lot of like all the spoilers are just. It feels like it's like when you see previews for movies and it's just nothing but all the explosions in the movie, like for an action film. And when you know, like, all the exciting stuff gets thrown at you right up front, and then, like, eventually, like, oh, yeah, and here's, like, 90 commons.
It's kind of lowered the bar, but in a positive way. I think, maybe one of these days when another amazing set comes out that we didn't see all the cool stuff up front, it'll be really impactful again. But when I still think of spoiler season, I think of getting a few cards. I think of, like, mock-ups or like out of a French or Japanese magazine, we got something. We're printing out the spoiler, heading to the pre-release. We haven't physically seen everything yet. It's a different world we live in now. So,
yeah.
But what's really important is we're here for Cube and
a lot of interesting cards for Cube.
Today's topics, just to cover, because we haven't actually said them out loud yet, but they are in the show notes. We're going to be talking a lot about the Dragon's Maze spoiler. We're going to show you what I like to call the first draft, or the initial changelog list proposal, as it were, for our cube, and kind of go over a lot of the choices there. Maybe there's some debate, because again, this list is going to change. That's really our main topic today, which kind of bleeds with Dragon's Maze spoilers. And of course, there's a lot to talk about this week with You Make the Card.
It's the exciting week.
It's big decision time. I wasn't sure on the timing, because it's really awkward. If you go to the website, it says submissions are due like
now,
midnight. Well, technically, you could submit them all the way up until midnight.
Oh, for midnight Eastern time?
Exactly.
Okay.
Which is really confusing, because it says midnight Wednesday, which would have been...
Right. They need to be like 12:01.
Yeah, Thursday, actually. So I submitted mine last night. I mean, we posted actually probably like 8 or 9 of them on the blog.
Yeah, I put a couple of mine up, and I put the ones that you sent me in.
And I felt really rushed, because I didn't realize until yesterday that the deadline was so soon. I really wanted to spend more time with it. So there was definitely one that like ended up just pretty much being a sorcery. When it should have been a spell, and or should have been an enchantment. I should have spent more time with it, but I felt really rushed. I mean, I just kind of sat down, and in 90 minutes, just kind of spit out ideas that are things that are, I think, cubable, as well as standard playable and generic. They aren't, like, now...
It's interesting. I've been looking, on Twitter and Reddit and stuff. People have been posting, like, oh, here's my idea, blah, blah, blah. And I feel like a good third of the ones I see could basically read, like, creatures you control are Vampire Nighthawk, and then some external life or creature sacrificing cost. Like, it's just like this weird, like, everyone wants to just make an enchantment that turns all your guys lifelink and death touch, and then you have to pay life for something.
I made one like that. It was kind of cool. I think that there are a lot of people, especially, vocal people on Twitter, where it's like, black enchantments kind of boil down to things make zombies, things maybe make vampires, or things are really overpowered and draw a bunch of cards.
Yeah, a lot of drawing cards for nominal costs as well.
I mean, again, I didn't spend as much time with it as I wanted to, and I kept trying to think of some cool graveyard card, and I kept making Recurring Nightmare without trying.
Yeah.
And that was bad, obviously. Don't do that. It kind of boiled down to, like, every time you try to make a cool enchantment for the graveyard that's, like, playable, it's either Recurring Nightmare, Tortured Existence, or nothing.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with those cards.
Or like Oversold Cemetery. Or Dread Return, like Dread Return as an enchantment, as like a fixed Recurring Nightmare. I saw that.
Right, but those are all broken. Like, you still have to decide. In Magic, there's still Deranged Hermit is a Magic card. I mean, in Standard, there's still there's still Geist Honored Monk as a Magic card. You can't have, like, I even tried to make one where it's like sack a dude, get a different dude.
Yeah.
It's like, can't put him in battlefield. No good. Infinite.
Yeah.
Game over.
So we'll talk about a couple of those. We've got a list of our proposals. We'll talk about the ones that we actually submitted. I submitted a slightly different one. I mentioned I had an idea that I put on the show.
Yeah, you actually had a really great idea that, I mean, I'm not going to say you fell ass backwards into it because you thought about it. And you
I thought about it for like all of 15 seconds while saying it out loud.
And I really like that kind of, the incremental effect that Eck had kind of come up with a few weeks ago was something that I thought was really cool for competitive play, focused great on black, but also rewarded those crazy EDH players that love to sit and play Magic for 3 hours in one game.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of like an appease all type situation.
Yeah,
I thought
it managed to be like pretty evenly matched without really trying. So we got a lot to talk about today, though. So let's start with everybody's favorite first thing, which is the packs.
We have a travesty. Oh, that Celestia. The Celestia Maze Runners.
Yeah,
apparently.
we'll get into that in the spoilers.
We'll get there.
That thing's bad.
We're hoping the room populates a little bit more before we get into the pick-a-packs, just because we kind of have this tendency to jump right into them when there's like 10 people here. And then by the time there's 50 people here,
That's the bonus you get for showing up on time.
I guess. I almost didn't show up on time today. We got to do what we can.
We're going in.
All right.
We got a lot to talk about.
Pick one, pack one, cube pack of the week.
All right. In this pack, we have Hellrider, Strip Mine, Profane Command, Plow Under, Forbid, Kitchen Finks, Sword of War and Peace, Comet Storm, Pestermite, Bloodghast, Scavenging Ooze, Acroma Angel of Wrath, Kiki-Jiki Mirror Breaker, Sliver Queen, and Plateau.
Yeah, it's a cool pack. It's a kind of a combination of very powerful things, an actual infinite combo. Fixing them a little bit. I like it.
Yeah, I changed the resolution on the live stream.
Okay. So Kenny is apparently slamming Kiki-Jiki or Strip Mine here. It's weird to slam one or the other. Generally, you slam a thing.
I'm a big fan of Strip Mine here.
Strip Mine, I think, is the very non-committal, the safest pick.
And it's also just really powerful. Like, it's one of the most powerful cards in the pack, and it's colorless. It's going to go in every deck. Like, it's not even like, oh, it's a mana accelerant, so you might not want it in your aggressive decks where you don't need that. It's like, no, every deck's going to play Strip Mine. Like, none of the colored cards in this pack strike me as being so powerful that I would take them over a colorless card. And a lot of them, Acroma, Kiki-Jiki, Sliver Queen, really heavy color commitments.
Yeah, we got triple white, we got triple red, we got
the five color,
multiple double blacks.
Yeah.
Kiki-Jiki is a goblin, which I don't think actually matters for anything.
In our cube, I don't think it does. It is super fun to play with, though, which is a valid point.
Yeah, so this is actually a pack where there's very few examples in our cube where you actually can kind of see a 2-card combo, maybe an instant win, maybe just infinite, right in one pack. And you do have the opportunity to take one piece or the other, hoping to table either. And it's weird in our cube, I almost say you could first pick Pestermite with the intent to get Kiki-Jiki back, while the chat is much more like, oh, we can take Kiki-Jiki with the intent to get Pestermite back. I think a lot of people are scared off by triple red, even in pack 1 where you're much more wide open and you can kind of take more liberties there. Although, surprisingly, at the end of the day, I think when this pack kind of came together, I didn't really think about Strip Mine being a clear favorite, but I could definitely just take that card and have no qualms.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there are a lot of cards that are kind of in the above average but not breakout power level. Things that I'm going to be happy to play in a lot of decks, but things that I'm not immediately wanting to build around. Finks, Profane Command, Forbid, even Bloodghast. These cards are very powerful. Hellrider as well.
Yeah, without the Strip Mine being in the pack, let's say that Strip Mine was Academy Ruins or Tectonic. Let's say Tectonic Edge. That's even easier. If it's a Tectonic Edge, I'm probably taking Hellrider.
I'm taking either Hellrider. Yeah, I'm taking Hellrider. I was about to say that I would take Sword of War and Peace, but the War and Peace is probably the worst of the swords in the cube. It might have arguably some of the most relevant color protections, but at the same time, like, its effect is the worst.
Yeah, I think we had this conversation recently where Sword of War and Peace is good enough that it could just be +2/+2, pro-red, pro-white, maybe gain a life. That is like a strong enough effect on an equipment for 5 effective mana to still warrant its inclusion. It's not like the other swords in cube where the sword part of the abilities, not the plussing of the protection parts, but the triggered effects are strong enough to really push it over the top.
The trigger on Sword and War Piece is definitely underwhelming, but yeah, I really like Hellrider. Hellrider is one of the best red 4-drops in the aggressive deck, which is a great place to be.
I mean, as Magic evolves out of aggro control combo into aggro control mid-range, identifying mid-range cards that are really powerful and identifying their versatility is really key. You know, when we talk about evaluating 3, 4, and 5 drops in the cube, Hellrider is perfect. I mean, you can't ask for anything more. You have a hasted Hill Giant that's effectively a 4/3. You're having this alpha attack for all of your creatures in your deck. You can have it be the top of a curve in a very aggressive deck. You can have it be part of that mid-range strategy, or you can just have a big red deck where it can still have a lot of impact because of its haste.
I just like it because, you know, it gives the tiny red creature deck so much reach out of one card. Like, if it goes unanswered, it's going to win the game on its own. And if you have any, like, it's a great top deck, whereas some of the other red 4-drops aren't as good. Like, it's such the best way to top your curve out in the Goblin Guide kind of deck, Jackal Pup, whatnot.
I mean, I think
it makes me feel a lot better about throwing 1 and 2 drops into a wall of guys.
I wish I could just evaluate the elimination of it's a good top deck or not out of so many Magic cards. It's just so hard to try to do that when you're trying to draft a deck.
I understand, but I mean, like, it's still a relevant point for certain cards. And, like, Hellrider is just always good no matter when you play him.
But this week seems kind of easy. It's a unanimous Strip Mine, and if Strip Mine didn't exist, unanimous Hellrider. I'm gonna agree with that.
We've got a pretty... that pack is kind of interesting just because there are a lot of different directions, but all the directions are very color committal. So it's kind of like, you know...
I mean, you can commit to a whole deck in one card if you take Kiki Jiki.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not a whole deck, but definitely a strategy.
Yeah.
So...
And Kiki Jiki might even come back. Like we were talking about, Triple Red kind of scares a lot of people off. So, like, you know...
I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you know, Pestermite there. So, I think the Pestermite or Kiki Jiki conversation is a surprisingly in-depth one, where which one would you take? I mean, I kind of snap off that Pestermite because I'm...
The chat seems to feel very strongly that if you want to try that route, you take Kiki Jiki first and try and get Pestermite back.
I think it's kind of split. I mean, Sam has a pretty strong argument against. I think Pestermite's much more versatile. I think it's going to make a lot more decks. So, pick one, pack ones. They're not that hard. Nowadays, they're even easier to generate for everyone at home since Eck has taken all of the energy to put the Magic Box Cube up on Tapped Out.
We are on Tapped Out now. So tappedout.net, they have, you can list cubes on it. So I went ahead and uploaded our cube list to it, so you can look at it. You know, it's got some analysis tools. You can browse the list.
It's pretty cool that you can just
price it out if you feel like having a horrible shock.
What does Tapped Out say?
I haven't looked.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
They have card values listed, so I think you can get like a total cost. But you can also do like little faux drafts as well. So one of the things, maybe not next week, but at some point in the future, I think what we're going to try and do is organize a draft via Tapped Out and stream it, and then build the decks in real life, and then actually play them.
Assuming we can get 8 people in the region to put it together.
Right.
Similar things have happened before. It wouldn't be that crazy. Actually, you know, since this is a good opportunity, why don't you, we'll show the people at home. Now, you can all do sample packs all the time. It's really easy.
Yeah.
You just...
So we're going to tappedout.net. We'll load this up. I'm going to go to my account because it's the easiest place that I can find the cube. But it's
I was going to say, could you search for? I've only got it through the links you.
If you click on cubes, it's listed under there, and you can search for it and stuff like that. So the Magic Box Cube is what it's called.
Obviously, we have the most hilarious name for a cube. So.
Now this should be all the cards. I had to some of the way I did it. That some of them didn't all make their way over, but I think it's correct now. It's also very hard to check because of the way we organize it versus the way it is organized.
Yeah, these are all barriers that have kept me away from putting this thing on Tapped Out forever.
So, anyway, one of the nice things you can also, if you really wanted to feel bold, you could export this to an MTGO deck.
Ugh.
So you could analyze it that way if you really wanted to.
Yeah, it's like it says cards. It says 694.
Right, but I've added and subtracted stuff, and that number didn't change.
Weird.
I don't
Okay,
know.
so ideally it is the 700 that we... But
So-
now you can just make open
So you
pack.
click open pack, all of a sudden, well, bam,
We take that mana drain.
we take this mana drain.
Or we take that Grim Monolith.
Yeah. So if you want to practice, this is a great way to do it. If you're bored, you can pop.
Yeah, as soon
pop
as Eck put it up
exercise.
there, I definitely found 20 minutes of my life
Can you do another
disappear.
one? Oh, ooh, this is a more interesting pack. For a random pack, this is actually kind of interesting.
This is like a Green Sun Zenith or Inferno Titan scenario, I think.
I think it's probably Green Sun Zenith. We don't need to spend too much time on this, but they also have you can draft.
I mean, you're definitely going to wheel Wolfear Avenger. You might. I can't imagine you get Sakura Tribe Elder to come
That'd
back.
be awesome.
You could also just take Windswept, Fetid Heath trying to get Vindicate to come back, or you could take Vindicate to come back trying to get Fetid Heath to come back.
Yeah.
So again, like this is just endless.
So again, if you're bored and you want something to do, that is a great time killer.
and
to
endless
familiarize
opportunities
yourself.
to kind of like magic jerk it.
Yeah,
Not
sure.
the cleanest
Ma-
of phrases.
Magic jerk it. Yeah. Okay.
So, since pick one, pack ones feel kind of outclassed these days. It
Yeah.
feels like, man, our lighting is so bad now. We've got more scenarios for you, which are much more exciting. Let's go right into scenario one here.
Okay.
Tell everyone at home what we've got, Eck.
I'm going to adjust this as well. It's a little too big. There we go. So, you are in the middle of a draft. You have Mox Diamond.
That's an emerald.
Oh, that's Emerald? Yeah. Derp. You have Mox Emerald, Bitter Blossom, Cultivate, and Aurelia's Fury as your 4 draft picks so far.
A little all across the board,
Yeah. All good cards, though.
obviously.
Your pack has Vithian Renegades, Palancron, Okiba Gang Shinobi, Jockle Hops, Sublime Archangel, Elves of Deep Shadow, Celestia Sanctuary, Icequake, Waterfront Bouncer, Chandra the Firebrand, and Mirror Entity.
Okay, so 2 things just jump out at me when I see this. I see 2 cards that can clearly benefit a token strategy and can be win conditions and kind of over-the-top sweet plays. And I also see 2 opportunities to kind of pick up fixing, which from the looks of our draft so far, I think 100% of the time, Cultivate, Emerald are making our deck. Now, it's really a question of, are we just going to go 5-color craziness? Are we just going to kind of center around some kind of green-based deck? So my eyes gravitate towards Elves of Deep Shadow, Celestia Sanctuary, both being really strong there.
I don't even necessarily think that way.
Okay, well, it's a good thing you're here.
The Mox Emerald, you're going to play in any deck no matter what. Whether you're green, whether you're red, you're still going to play it.
Okay.
So really, I look at that as not necessarily even being like that is going to push me into green. So I would look at the other 3 cards you have, Bitter Blossom, Cultivate, Aurelia's Fury,
Okay.
and evaluate from those specifically. Now, you could certainly angle towards taking your green card, and it would be fine, just because, that way you have an on-color Mox, but I don't necessarily think that's the most important thing. And I would still, I don't see the cards that we have committing us to anything yet, and I think that we could still very much just take, the most powerful card we have available and not necessarily pick an angle yet.
Okay. So you could say, at this point, you could pretty much just ignore the top 4 cards.
I'm not saying we ignore the top 4 cards,
Okay.
but I'm saying that I'm not seeing Mox Emerald plus Cultivate means we're gonna lock into green. You know what I mean?
When I say I'm playing them for surezies, I think that I'm saying that I took that Cultivate 3rd pick with the intention to play some kind of mana fixing strategy. I guess maybe I'm putting a little too much more emphasis on the order in which the cards I must have picked are, and I'm kind of making assumptions based on the motivation behind those picks, and not just looking up, let's say I woke up with these 4 cards and then looked at this pack.
You
what would I
blacked
do?
out and then came to with these cards.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm fine with taking Elves of Deep Shadow, just because if you want to play the cards we've already drafted, that's a great way to do it. It's a green card that produces black, so it also gets our Bitter Blossom working. It's another form of acceleration, which is kind of an angle that we can push. But I don't necessarily think the only cards that we should be looking at are things with green in them. Sublime Archangel is also very powerful, especially with Bitter Blossom.
Yes.
Alternatively, even something like Okiba Gang Shinobi, while not stellar, is that's another sweet thing to do with fairy tokens.
Yes.
So I don't think it's as clear cut as like, oh, we have to take a green card here. Take Elves of Deep Shadow. I certainly think it's a viable pick, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. But I think that justifying a committal to green with a Cultivate and a Mox Emerald is not a great idea.
Okay.
I think being open is a fine place to be.
See, I think the irony there to me is that I would just take Dual Land, which also has a green mana symbol in it, conveniently.
Yeah, I mean, it is a bounce land, which is okay. I mean, like the cards that I think I could feasibly justify taking out of this pack would be Elsa Deep Shadow, Sublime Archangel, and probably Chandra the Firebrand, just on power level. Icequake, Vithian Renegades, Palancron, Jockalhops, not on the same power level, and Mirror Entity is just probably worse than Sublime Archangel.
I don't think it's strictly inferior.
No, I mean they're a little different, but they're different but the same. You know.
No, one thing I like about Sublime Archangel is it's that kind of that. It's always an instant surprise getcha for a bunch in the same circumstances where Mirror Entity is more of like a suspend one, you're dead.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm fine just taking elves here. Like, angle towards green is fine. It gives us an easy way potentially to splash that Bitter Blossom, although splashing Bitter Blossom obviously isn't fantastic. Yeah.
I'm still at a crossroads where if I'm going to try to play a ramp deck, I might also be playing board sweepers. Those board sweepers might be red, black, or white, and evaluating the mana creatures at that point in time is a little bit different. I might just want the green-white land in that set of circumstances. Now, again, I just have a Bitter Blossom. I just have an Aurelia's Fury, so I'm just touching on other colors at this point. Which, to me is almost a case for taking a card like Chandra. We could take a Chandra, we can wheel the Jockalhops most likely, and now we have a Cultivate, Emerald, Bitter Blossom, Chandra the Firebrand, Jockalhops, pile of cards that all work together with the Jockalhops, the red upheaval, which I think is really cool too. At the end of the day, I think I would have to base the decision on kind of what I saw and what I was passing. So that might mean that I want to take the land if I know it's going to be a little bit slower. And if I think that maybe, the decks are going to be a little bit more aggressive out there, I would be inclined to take Elf or Mirror Entity. But I think just in a vacuum, I'm taking Elves of Deep Shadow here.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Okay, so let's go. So we've got Elves. So now let's look at the other pack. So here's our second.
Let me just fix it a
Yeah.
little bit. All right, now this time this might look a little familiar to people.
Yeah, do not adjust your computer screens. You have seen these cards before.
You're probably sitting across the table from the guy that opened the pack we looked at the top of the show.
Yep. So you have Sword of Fire and Ice, Goblin Guide, Umazawa's Jitte, and Geist Honored Monk.
And the 11 cards that came to you are
Plow Under, Forbid, Kitchen Finks, Comet Storm, Pestermite, Bloodgast, Scavenging Ooze, Akrama Angel of Wrath, Kiki Jiki Mirror Breaker, Sliver Queen, and Plateau. So
the people at this table did not bite on the Kiki Jiki
Right.
Pestermite combo, is what I've learned.
yeah, I am snap plateauing. Yeah.
Looks like plateau. No love for Kitchen Finks?
No,
No love for Kitchen
Not even a
Finks.
little bit.
Not even a little bit.
I mean I don't even really have a lot of love for Geist Honored Monk,
Okay.
but I definitely think that Plateau here is going to be fine. The red deck pairs well with white. You already have a white card that's pretty good. It's a little on the slow side, but having the fixing is going to be nice. Finks is very good, but I would much rather have a deck that can reliably play Goblin Guide on turn 1 than can play Kitchen Finks on turn 3.
So Sam pointed out something that I'm going to echo here, which is cards like Goblin Guide aren't super amazing with 4 and 5 mana equipment.
They're not stellar, But at the same time, like, it doesn't really matter that much about what's holding a Chite, and it gives something for the red decks to do with their mana in the later part of the game. Like,
yeah, no, I agree. You know, when the red deck floods, those equipment, which are already stronger, are just going to get better. I think that for me, the safe pick, or maybe to like kind of fill out my curve, I want Kitchen Finks, and I'm not like, I think by taking Plateau, I feel like I'm trying to lock into something that I don't really want to lock into.
I don't necessarily think it's a lock in. I mean, you have a very powerful red card, and you have a powerful white card. By taking Plateau, you can either angle from this point forward to be primarily red with a little bit of white, or primarily white with a little bit of red. And Plateau helps in both of those situations.
Yeah, but a white deck with a little bit of red doesn't want Goblin Guide.
No.
Which kind of like negates the Goblin Guide pick. That's why I'm saying, like, you have an opportunity here to pick up one of the premier white creatures in Magic. And again, now if you take that Kitchen Finks and that Kiki Jiki tables, look out, people.
Yeah, I mean, you could arguably just take Kiki Jiki and go real bold, because it's as the chat is pointing out, it's quite good with Geistar's Monk.
Yeah, I would have to take Plateau before I took Kiki Jiki. I'm not super excited about going
double white, triple red. Yeah,
right there. I mean, you have two of the premier equipment in Cube already. We definitely want our deck to be populated by a bunch of creatures, and Finks is a very resilient creature. I think one of the reasons that kind of in Cube in general, equipment is not as crazy as it is in most limited formats is that you kind of spend a lot of resources, possibly over several turns, possibly even all your resources on one turn,
to potentially get blown out,
or just time walked or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that cards like Kitchen Finks help counter that investment you're making into something that's going to close the game out already. We have a lot of 4 and 5s. I want 3 mana to help give us time to set up. I agree. That statement bleeds into the conversation about spending all this time and energy to make equipment happen. And I think that a lot of inexperienced players with equipment, especially when it comes to the Cube format, where there's a lot more opportunities to blow people out when they're spending a lot of time with equipment, you have to have a workaround. You have to have a plan for, if this doesn't stick.
Yeah.
It's a lot harder just kind of, and SoFi is usually a 5-mana spell. So, I'm picking Finks.
That's a fine pick. I think I'd probably take Plateau here, with the hope that I can play red. And that might just be a personal preference.
No, I mean, if you take Plateau and that Kiki Jiki swings all the way back around, you might have Stu going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think you can go either way on that pack.
Easy for bid.
Easy for bid. Yeah, there you go.
Not so much this time. I don't think so. Well, there you have it.
Yeah.
Kind of a tie together scenario this week. I like that a lot. Wow. Time always just blows by on these situations.
I know. You want to hop into Dragon's Maze spoilers? The thing everybody wants us to talk about?
We should probably do You Make the Card first.
You want to touch on You Make the Card?
Yeah, because I think that Dragon's Maze spoilers kind of connects to the change list.
Okay.
As where You Make the Card suggestions are much more their own thing. We will get to spoilers. Everyone's excited about spoilers. I wish we had new news to bring you.
I know.
We can only evaluate what we have, especially in terms of Cube. Man, my hair is ridiculous today.
There are spoilers we're talking about. Spam trash in chat. We promise. There are some good ones.
Definitely.
That are definitely making it.
We're not the be-all, end-all Magic video cast. I mean, we're not going to be the most expert analysis of every card in Dragon's Maze. We're mostly looking for Cube implications, but some of that bleeds into other formats.
So, You Make the Card has been going strong. This is the week of rules text submission, which is the most exciting for everybody.
It was interesting this time around. This is kind of the first time that Wizards has put a little bit more emphasis on not only the person submitting. It's, they're asking for personal information so they can contact you and maybe feature you to thus talk about your submission.
Kind of thing.
But combined with that, you kind of had to give a little bit of a backstory to what you were trying to do.
The flavor.
Yeah,
you had to provide flavor,
which I think went a lot more to kind of top-down design. I think that something that Aaron Forsyth tweeted earlier in the week into last week was kind of like he loves top-down design and players really love it, as you can see with Innistrad and how much people just love it. I think that it's almost harder to come from a different angle. It's harder to kind of, looking at making Magic cards, there's so much you can go over. And it's like, what's reverse engineering versus engineering in terms of Magic cards? Yeah, it's actually kind of weird that you can't submit it.
I mean, it's a legal thing. It has to be.
But how? Who
I
knows?
I maintain
there could be gold at the end of this rainbow we don't know about.
Or it's just, like copyright, intellectual property, because you invented the card, you have to sign the rights away, and you can't do that in every country or something. I have no idea.
So if a North Korean wins, all hell breaks loose.
Right. God forbid. So
I'm sure Kim Jong-un has never lost a match of Magic.
Oh, no.
Under no set of circumstances.
No. So I'm going to hop over to... This is a list of submissions that we had been talking about and kind of brainstorming.
Now, I kind of went 1 week ahead and added casting costs to these. And that was not part of this week's submissions. So...
I mean, I think
you
most
can disregard them. It may be helpful, maybe less helpful.
Most people, I feel, design cards with casting costs in mind. Like when they're thinking of rules text, they're like, I expect this to cost whatever.
Yeah, I think, in a way that's kind of detrimental to the process. I don't think you let your mind wander as much as to the things you can do. But I think that, for me, kind of feeling out like how black a card is, almost, kind of just helps the casting cost and the feel, and it kind of ties into how I feel it should work.
Yeah. So, we got a couple of these for the audio side. We've got Echoing Screams. At the beginning of each end step, each player discards 2 cards unless he or she discards a creature card. So... Similar
to, what was it, Bottomless Vault, I think, from Stronghold? Which it would not... I don't remember when the trigger would take place, but it was a very slow kind of discard effect.
It's like Wrench Mind on an enchantment.
Yeah, but, again, for Cube, kind of rewarding putting creatures in your graveyard, playing with the black creatures, that was kind of where this kind of concept came from. So, hopefully in an aggressive black deck, already you're dumping your hand. You don't have a problem discarding things, so hopefully those things are Bloodghast and Gravecrawlers, ideally.
Yeah.
But you can, it's one of those things that it seems symmetrical, but you can start to bring it your direction.
Another one we've got here, Overbearance. When this enters the battlefield, choose a color. All creatures of the chosen color get -1/-1.
So, when trying to think of things similar to Knight of Souls Betrayal, I think that's a Magic card that I think most Magic players, black mages, black control players, really wish there was another kind of form out there. It's so hard not to just make Engineered Plague over again. That's really what you kind of end up doing without really trying. So, in a day and age where color hosers are not as prevalent, but still in modern Magic, we still have, Story Circle. I thought, let's give black a shot here. Let's try to give it something it can play. And again, with the casting cost there, it's prohibitive that you're not going to be, slamming these turn 2, 3, 4, 5, and all naming green or white or whatever. But I really think that is a very easy to understand effect, a card. It's the blacks Story Circle, which we're all familiar with as Magic players.
Right. Consuming Plague. During each upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. Sacrifice Consuming Plague. All creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn.
This one might actually end up being my favorite because it's so simple, it's streamlined, it feels like it has flavor, and it also, enchantments that are really strong can often act as other card types. In this case, it could be a sorcery or an instant. So you have Infest, or Massacre as it were, on a card, and you also kind of have that slow eating. There's a guy from Mirage or something, or it's each upkeep, put a -1/-1 counter on target creature.
Something like that.
And the fact that it's more of a plague, kind of going into the flavor, it's not May, it's not opponents. So if you're the only one with creatures on the board, it can become a liability. Oh, you have to stop it.
I think that's one of the interesting things that I tried to work into mind was the liability on black cards of from a flavor perspective, you're dealing with demonic magic or whatever, and sometimes it doesn't work out exactly how you hoped, but you still have to pay all the costs. So,
So Fill the Catacombs was the one that I should have spent more time on, and was a much broader idea that I was just trying to like narrow down to something that functionally worked, and it ended up not...
It ended up being a sorcery?
It ended up effectively being a sorcery. There should definitely be more text on this. And again, it was one of those circumstances where I didn't want to make Recurring Nightmare, I didn't want to make Tortured Existence, and I didn't want to make Oath of Ghouls, was the other thing that was really easy to kind of make. So this one needed more rules text and just never really got there. But
yeah.
It's, when Fill the Catacombs enters the battlefield, each player may search his or her library for any number of creature cards and put them into their graveyard.
The end.
Currently the end. There should have been more there, and I think that there's some really cool stuff you could do there, especially in regards to Cube, which may or may not have been a focus of the things we were trying to make.
I tried to make the cards I added were very much like a Cube focus, because I mean that's what I play, and that's what I care about. So it's going to influence my decisions, and I think that's going to be true of anybody. Next one we've got Grave Swap. Sacrifice a creature, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. If the creature sacrificed this way was a zombie, Grave Swap deals 1 damage to each other player. You gain that much life. So that seems really broken.
Tell me why.
That just seems like... I mean... Probably would be like sacrifice a non-token creature or something. Would that be fair?
It could be.
Like, this seems pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, talking about... this is one of those cards where the Cloudgo Rangers and the Deranged Hermits of the world, things start to get a little murky.
Yeah.
Maybe non-token's the way to do it.
I just have visions of that killing people from way out. With just the pinging.
Oh, for zombies?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's sweet with Gravefather.
Army of the Damned.
Grave Titan is, like, unstoppable.
Yeah.
But you have to have a target. Like, with... So, like, let's say you play Army of the Damned and then you play Grave Swap. You still need guys in your yard to target to get back.
You just keep pitching the same guy over and over to Lulteth Troll, who is also a zombie.
Alright.
But
I think that's fine. I think that would be fun and cool.
Consume the Living.
Your win condition is in conjunction with Army of the Damned. I think we made a good card.
Vampire and zombie creatures you control have Death Touch.
Boom.
When a vampire creature you control deals combat damage to an opponent, that player loses 2 life and you gain 2 life.
Boom.
Whenever a zombie deals combat damage to an opponent, that player discards a card.
Boom. Flavor Town. I like this one.
That is just really good.
Is it? I mean, come on! It's an enchantment that literally does nothing when it hits the battlefield. You have to have things going on of these creature types. I don't think it's absurd at all.
No.
I think it rewards players for playing those Innistrad popular creature types that are also popular in all of Magic. Those are the black ones. I think there's a lot of flavor in this one, and I think that as we hope, we've had this talk before about Cuba, how we really wish that the vampire and zombie creature types could kind of team up and do some cool things, because a lot of powerful cards are kind of split between those two creature types. I think that's the way to make it happen.
Alright. Harness the Darkness. When Harness the Darkness enters the battlefield, discard your hand. During your upkeep, you lose 2 life and draw 2 cards.
Spicy.
So, Sign in Blood every turn? That's going to get out of hand. Also, that is the best dredge card ever printed.
Oh, wow. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So, anyway, that one's going to have to get the thumb down.
Or you just put a cast... I mean, so it's really good with Dredge. You put a casting cost on it, and Dredge players are going to have a hard time playing it.
Sure, but, whew, boy. That's quite the saucy...
Yeah, that is real gross with Dredge.
Yeah.
Good old things that exist that
good
shouldn't exist in Magic.
Okay.
It's just... I like this one... it's similar to... There's that 6/5 legend in Champions that has, this as for every player, it's a creature...
Oh, He Who Hungers or whatever?
No. We're not going to get hung up on it. Either, anyway, I felt that was a really cool thing that existed on a card before. Now, obviously, it's a little more dangerous to take the creature part off of it. Maybe Harness the Darkness, you kind of change the flavor and the feel of it. You make it both players, but you discard your hand. It gets messy in that regard. I in the conceptualization of it, I like the idea of an aggressive player isn't going to be able to necessarily dump their hand in before they cast this, and they're gonna maybe lose resources that they're gonna slowly accumulate later. As we're in the late game, you're casting it. You're just kind of you're double arena-ing, but going from 1 to 2 life can get pretty scary pretty fast, as anyone that's played games with like Phyrexian Arena or even just Graveborn Muse by itself can attest. Maybe because it's an enchantment and not a creature, that is a little too dangerous.
What if it was like, when it enters the battlefield, discard your hand. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you draw a card and lose 1 life.
It's awkward because it gives your opponent like a weird win condition.
Yeah, that's kind of the point.
So like now that Sphinx's Revelation is also drain life. Yeah, I mean,
it's a very that's a very powerful effect. So like giving it that kind of a edge to it is kind of interesting. Anyway,
not bad.
Next one, Graveyard Avalanche. At the beginning of your upkeep, put a counter on Graveyard Avalanche. Then search your library for a card. For each counter on it, put that card in your graveyard, shuffle your library. Then you lose a life for each counter on Graveyard Avalanche. So, the first turn it triggers, you entomb, lose 1 life. The next turn you get 2 cards, lose 2 life. Then 3 and lose 3 life, and so on and so forth.
It's one of those cards it's strange because it feels like you either instantly you instantly win the game, or you don't do anything and lose the game.
Well, it's so... Part of this was after reading this mission guideline, like as a flavor design, like as like a top-down kind of like the guy's summoning evil dark magic or whatever, and it eventually just like totally he can't control it anymore, it destroys him.
Okay.
Right, so it's like
okay.
Hence the name.
I feel you on that.
I wanted something that could be a graveyard kind of tutoring effect. Without it being really overpowered, and I felt the way to do that was not necessarily to make it jump through a lot of hoops to tutor for your graveyard, but just make it that whatever you're doing has to be very, very powerful because this will kill you so fast. Like unchecked, this will kill you in 6 turns without any other sources of damage.
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, like a time bomb style of card for a player is not one that WotC has been super amped on. I feel like it's kind of weird because I don't think like casual players are all that amped on that concept either. Where it's like, I try to be more reticent of EDH players these days, where they're the kind of people that like the game to go long. And when you think of cards like Hatred and Necropotence,
I understand that like EDH players like the game to go long, but not every card has to be designed to make the game go long.
All right, maybe my school of thought was a little bit too more like trying to appeal to everybody.
Yeah,
maybe it was like you can't make everyone happy, but
okay. Yeah,
it's hard because black. One of black's largest components is losing life.
Right, and
I think your real home run is your next one.
So power overwhelming. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses 2 life. If you control 3 or more swamps, you gain that much life. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent discards a card. If you control 6 or more swamps, draw that many cards. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent sacrifices a creature if you control 9 or more swamps. Return a creature card from your graveyard to play for each creature sacrificed this way. So
yeah, that one's pretty saucy.
One of the other things about black is it's very much like mono black is much more of a common thing, both in terms of flavor and design and kind of the way cards are built. So I wanted something that really rewarded mono black without being just like Cabal Coffers or something like that.
It's weird when when you talk about color identity or color philosophy in Magic. Not every color has that kind of feeling where it's like more is better of that color. Maybe in the earliest days of Magic, cards like Gaia's Liege and worse examples like Wood Elemental. But like, you could look, but the point is you could look at cards where it's like, oh, I'm playing all of the one color. I'm going to be greatly rewarded for that.
Yeah.
Like, I think, sure, like Vidalcan Shackles, you can kind of like point, along the line, sure, they took advantage of it, but no color has it in such concentration over and over and over again through the history of Magic, from Drain Life to Consume Spirit to Liliana's Shades and so on and so forth, like black does.
I wanted to try and have something that could reasonably see play as a kind of grindy control card, but also has a big benefit in like your like multiplayer games like EDH. And I didn't want it to be something where it affects the board in a super powerful way right away, especially because EDH is very much, you know, the politics and the who do we kill next.
Yeah, like
who,
that.
Like
you've got a little bit of everything. I mean, it almost has that kind of Planeswalker feel where it's like if it's ticking up in the number of swamps you control, like things become more dangerous.
Everyone can see it coming.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, oh, this isn't that much of a problem now, but like in 2 more turns, this is going to be a huge deal. Like we have to,
right.
we collectively as the non-black mage here have to do something about this guy. Like, and I think that there's really kind of an interesting.
And I also love that. You know, for competitive players, it's the instant gratification. You want the board impact now when you play it, but you have enough of an incremental growth in power that I feel like you can give it back. It's not like, you know, it's kind of that it's coming. You know, it's that impending doom.
And our last idea collectively was blackout. You may play black mana as though it were mana of any color. Whenever you play a non-black spell, you lose 1 life. Whenever you play a non-swamp land, you lose 1 life.
That is actually, I think, just gotta clean up the verbiage a little bit on there, but I really like what you've done there. I think that is not, you know, it's kind of the reverse Celestial Dawn, and we think of it in terms of cube. The black mage wants all these black spells. We have to stay away from playing cards like Mind Sludge in the cube, but there's all this inherent value in playing the black cards.
Right.
But it's like I can't play Disenchant, I can't play Counterspell, I can't play
like. My thought here was that, you know, I set out with the design of this to try and be like, what would black mana fixing really look like? That's not contamination. You know, what if we went the other way? Rather than try and make everything black, what if we allow black to play other colors in a more effective way? What would the drawbacks have to look like? What would the balance have to be? And I think that, you know, the interesting tension on this is that, you know, it allows you to be, you know, base black with other colors, but the more you want to spread out of those colors, the harder the backlash is going to hit you, you know, on both sides, you know. So I think it's really interesting. It also rewards playing gold cards.
Sure, I think that's just like a side bonus. I think that now, now think of all the things Dark Ritual can do.
Right.
Think of all the things like Culling the Weak and all these things that make a ton of black mana can do.
Yeah, card concept is where you explain flavor.
Yeah, you know, 100 characters is a very small space, and that's all they give you. It's really weird.
My submission definitely used 100 for card concept and all 300 for rules text.
Huh. Well, which one? So, you know, at the end of the day, we could only submit one.
Right. Which one did you submit?
I believe the Spreading Plague.
You went Consuming Plague?
Consuming Plague is where I went, yeah. I think it's really clean. I like that it deals with the 3/3 in 1 turn. I like that it's every upkeep to kind of like keep things going. It's a really good removal effect.
I submitted Graveyard Avalanche. And this was kind of the first one that I had really spent a lot of time thinking about and trying to balance in my head. Obviously, it's not the cleanest rules text, but I think it could probably be cleaned up if I knew more what I was doing.
It's so weird. I think your other 2 submissions are superior.
They're just different. I mean, they're all... these last 3 were all mine, and they're all very different in terms of what they're trying to accomplish and where they work.
Yeah, I think you were a lot more bold, and you touched on different corners.
Yeah.
As where I was trying to be more middle of the road to try to appeal to more people.
With Power Overwhelming and Blackout, those were very specifically like... I was thinking about, like, you know, what does a mono black deck want? Or what is, you know, like... What are these things? And with Graveyard Avalanche, I was very specifically designing that with Cube in mind. I was like, what would I want a black enchantment that I could put in Cube?
And it's funny to me, I think that all 3 of these could be played in a Cube deck. All 3 of yours. So, so for the people at home, the bottom 3 submissions were all Eck. And this is kind of the first time I could really get to see all of them at once. So this is all new information to me. But I could see... Definitely, you know, in the various different control decks that Black has in Cube currently, playing the bottom 2 cards for sure. As where I think this kind of Graveyard Avalanche mechanic or the Fill the Catacombs thing I'm trying to go for has a very different feel, and you're trying to do something very different.
I just think, like, Graveyard tutoring is very, very powerful. I think when you start messing with the Graveyard, it's been proven over time that is a road to potential ruin for formats. And I think that what I tried to do was with this is I want a powerful tutoring effect, so I need to come up with a drawback that, while still makes the card playable, creates like a very real tension of like I need to win the game or get rid of this as fast as possible because otherwise it's going to kill me. Because I mean, the way the math works, if you play this on turn 2, even if your opponent never deals you a single damage, you're dead on turn 9.
Sure, I think that if anything, you've just created a new case for a Legacy Donate deck. So what cards can you put in your graveyard, get back, and then abuse to ship? So you just put like Snapcaster and Burial Rites Donate. So the first turn you go get like Burial Rites, then you get Snapcaster Mage Donate, and then you ship it to them.
I was just saying...
Or even you can just get an Illusions on turn 3.
You just get a stack of Cabal Therapies and Narcomoebas, and then eventually get a Ray of Revelation. But, like, again, like, the life cost is so high, it adds up so quickly.
That's so cheater. You can just get a Ray of Revelation?
Yeah, so cheap. So, I mean...
Yes, Gristlebrand would be fine. Like, using the card like in Tomb is pretty key. And, you know, maybe that's part of the problem is that when we think of all of these, like, tutor, put cards in your graveyard type things as an enchantment, you either do it very slowly and it might not be good enough, or you're just creating sorceries.
I wanted it to be something that felt uniquely not like a sorcery, but also felt like it was fast or had an immediate enough impact that it wasn't like this super plotting, like, you know, the zombies are coming to get you in this slow horde. Like, I wanted it to be a little more aggressively in terms of speed, and I think the way I was trying to do that was by amping up on the drawback.
Yeah, I think that one's difficult. I mean, obviously I like the concept. I don't think it's going to get picked.
Well, I mean, by the law of averages, most of them are not going to get picked.
True.
I have some bad news for you.
It's okay. The people here on the stream now, the people who listen to it after the fact, they will know your story.
I know.
They will be aware of it. So there you have it for this week's You Make the Card, the most intense.
And I mean, it was like this. I don't know how many people in the chat or listening to this remember the previous You Make the Cards, but it was very much... It was different because there wasn't, like, Twitter and...
Social
like,
media. There wasn't Reddit. There wasn't as much kind of community sharing. I think it was much more in the dark. People submitted things.
Yeah, everyone was, like, scribbling in their basement, you know, alone, trying to figure out...
It was, you know, it was much more of this surprise reveal. I still think we'll have that because of the tens of thousands.
Like, the conversations about You Make the Card that I've had or read or watched on Reddit and Twitter and stuff are like the conversations I had about You Make the Card last time at F&M.
Well, that's cool.
It was like,
I think that's what it should be.
Right. It was like, because like there was no like online method for doing that, like to the degree that we have now. It was like we would go to F&M like, so what did You Make the Card do? Oh, I made a giant mechanical dragon that did whatever, you know, like, because it was artifacts. So, you know.
That was 2 times ago.
That was 2 times ago. Oh, right. Vanish into Memory is the last one. I made a spell that's better than Vanish into Memory.
Okay. So that's You Make the Card for this week. Big week. Fingers crossed. We'll both be selected.
Oh, yeah.
Where are we? This way? Come on, Wizards. But let's get to pretty much what we're all here for this week. It's time for spoilers.
So
now, when we left you last week, we had not seen everything we will see now moving forward. So a week ago, we hadn't seen the first offerings, which would be Turn and Burn and Breaking and Entering. I think those are the cards that got spoiled, like actually while we were drafting a Cube League last week. Surprisingly enough, and nicely enough, they're both kind of worth talking about. Turn and Burn.
I like Turn and Burn a lot.
I like it plenty. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about its inclusions. I think when I was joking last week that if the burn side was red 1, deal 1 damage to a creature player, draw a card, I'd be way more into it. But maybe that's just a whole lot of nitpicking.
I mean, I just like the versatility on this card is awesome. And you know, is it the immediate thing that I came to is this better than Prophetic Bolt?
Because that's what you kind of weighed it up against.
Right, because like obviously it's the same cost if you fuse it, and so it's you're trading impulse for being able to kill even bigger stuff, and also the flexibility. I mean, especially in combat, this is just a crazy blowout.
So, ideally, and where this card will be huge in regular limited, is the fact that you're going to shrink a guy that doesn't have any abilities and kill it with a blocker or an attacker, and you're going to shock another attacker or blocker, or some guy your opponent has on the other side of the table.
It's going to be a big game a lot of times.
Yeah, and so the real question is cube, especially our cube, similar enough where we would want that effect? Is that going to come up often enough? Or is it just a 5-mana 2-color kill spell? Or maybe it's just another overcosted shock that might have other interactions.
Overcosted shock is not the worst. I mean, Magma Jet. Like,
you can't compare this card to Magma Jet. We already had this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm still on the fence about it. I think that maybe as Magic continues to evolve with creature combat, and that moves its way into our cube a little bit more, as Rosewater actually in his most recent podcast talked a lot about, it was actually focused on creatures, and talked about how in the early days of Magic, spells were here and creatures were here, and over time creatures are coming up this way and spells are kind of coming down. And
Sam makes a good point. Turn and Burn lets you kill Revelark.
Yeah,
so that might be why you don't want it in cube.
Blightsteel Colossus. It's one of the few ways to deal with that guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think
maybe its unique effect and its versatility.
Ulamog, anything indestructible.
Yes.
Yes. So I like that guy. Breaking and entering.
You're just walking all over me here. I'm trying to tell you about how spells and creatures are different.
Yeah. We got a lot to talk about. There's
I
a lot
understand
of
that.
Breaking and entering.
And it's not happening for me.
No, I mean the mill side is pretty irrelevant, at least for us. There's not really a mill deck.
Overcosted anime dead or whatever is too much. Zombify, whatever.
Yeah. So
you're the one telling me we gotta get through the show. We gotta keep moving.
Showstopper. Other than the
Don't care.
Shawn Michaels reference. That's about it.
Sure. Blood Scrivener. Yes, that is the business.
Yes. I just noticed the pun in the flavor text, which is pretty cute. This guy is awesome. I am looking forward to putting this guy in cube. I think he is a slam dunk. He's a zombie.
And it's important to point out that with Dragon's Maze, there are going to be very few even opportunities to include monocolor cards in the update because there's only 50 in total, and we've already wasted like 20 of them on commons that we can't even use.
Bad cycles.
I mean, they're not bad. They're not cube cards. Yeah. So Blood Scrivener is awesome. The fact that it's a zombie, 2 power. I mean, you get it. That card is going to be in the cube. It's going to be in pretty much everybody's cube. You don't need to hear it from us. We all get it.
That thing is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
Zerta Ancient.
Ship it, pass it, not going to talk about it.
Obsidat's Aid.
Now this one, people have been talking about, and I don't know. I don't think it's going to make the cut for us. We have a question?
Yeah. What card is the most dangerous to have in a cube?
Huh.
Which card makes the cube the most unstable? Interested to learn. I would say it's probably
the most dangerous card in cube.
It's not man. It's it's probably the more powerful a card is that doesn't require any help.
Yeah, one card combos.
Like one card combos
are what are dangerous.
Yeah. Like stuff that doesn't even necessarily need a whole ton of support.
Right. I mean, they might be things we've cut. Soul Ring can be dangerous. It's just so weird. It's like, as much as we played with Power Cube, we're really... I mean, cards like... Mill 10 cards are really dangerous.
Yeah.
Maybe cards... Mind Twist can be dangerous. Mana Drain can be dangerous. But what is the most dangerous?
I don't know. I hadn't really gotten that.
I mean, cards like Channel are really dangerous.
I would say... actually, it might be Channel.
I mean,
because that's very much a one-card combo.
Yeah, and I think that kind of bleeds into topics maybe touched on past, like all or nothing strategies. Like we talked about, Tolarian Academy can be very dangerous.
Gifts Given.
Gifts Given is so... Oh.
That is a dangerous one.
Biggest dick punch in all of one. Yeah, one-card combos are really kind of what you're looking for.
I would say Channel is definitely... That's kind of one of the what I was thinking of.
Yeah, I mean, this was a conversation I actually had this week, because Evan Irwin just added to his cube, and it was kind of like, Channel is the prime example of when that card is involved in a game of Magic in general.
Is that a real
one person, if two people are playing, one person is pissed because it's either the guy that drew Channel and can't do anything with it, or it's the guy that just got blown out by
Turn 2 Emrakul.
Yeah, something like this is no.
Yeah. I would say it's probably Channel.
Yeah, Channel is the good answer. I like that answer.
So back to the topic at hand. Obsidat's Aid.
It's not. You know, I kind of looked at where it interacts with things we have in our cube. I think this one's going to kind of get left behind. I think this one's for standard. I think, put your Omnisciences into play. Put your Angel Serenities into play.
Put your Planeswalkers into play.
Yeah.
Oh, it's exciting.
Sure. I just, it's not, it doesn't, we're probably cutting Mindslaver, and even still, that's a 9-mana Mindslaver instead of a 10-mana Mindslaver. It's not, like the big Eldrazi guys shuffle back in. It gets like a Gideon Jura back onto the battlefield, but like waiting for that set of circumstances is just really hard. So it's just not going to happen. So that's Obsidat's Aid, and then
Rot Farm Skeleton.
I'm not going to talk about it. Sire of Insanity is worth stopping on briefly.
It's a very powerful effect.
It's just so expensive. I mean, this is a prime example of shrink it down, leave the text, shrink it down, and you've got a sweet card. Because you made a Crawworm, it's like, okay.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Varol's the Scar Striped.
Okay, so obviously this card's very good in other formats. I mean, we all know about it. As far as Cube is concerned, which is what our topic is, I don't think so. I mean, you have to pay a legitimate cost. And, like, we don't run Death Shadow, we don't run Phyrexian Dreadnought. There's no way to, like, super abuse this guy. He's just kind of a value card. And because of that, I think that it's just not enough. So, I might end up eating my words on this one, but I don't think that's going to be the case.
I see this more as like like you were saying, like Death Shadow, like you build around to like try and abuse it, but kind of like in Cube, like it kind of.
I mean, like it's a fine value card. Like if I'm playing like a black-green kind of grindy deck, like if I already have the survival engine kind of going, like this card can be really good. I think it just kind of comes down to how good is Scavenge in a Cube format.
Yeah, I mean, that's just most of black stuff you would rather have back in play from the graveyard, not removing it for counters.
I mean, it's still fine. Like you're gonna pay a black remove Gravecrawler, a guy gets
plus
equal to his power, right? Yeah, 1 black +2/+2. If you can't get your back, I mean,
spinning Landmore Elves or whatever is also fine.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, it's a fine card. It's just a question of, is it too slow? It's got a big target on its head too. It's so weird.
But it does regenerate.
Abrupt Decay, Smother. Yeah. There's things that are going to go for it.
Okay. Let's see. Bread for the Hunt. No thanks. Mirko Vosk.
Not happening. It's similar to the Nemesis of Reason situation with Mirko Vosk. Plus he is just a 2/4. I mean, he does have flying, but whatever. Not happening.
Flesh and Blood.
Not happening.
Million mana.
Putrefy. We'll probably run that in Cube.
That'll probably make it.
Okay.
Here we go.
I gotta make sure I'm hydrated for this one. It's time to talk about Voice of Resurgence.
I like it.
Tell us more, Eck. Why do you like it?
So, this may come off as being entirely obvious to everyone, but Voice of Resurgence really reminds me of Gaddock Teeg, and in the sense that Gaddock Teeg is, like, obviously they're the same cast cost, same size. Gaddock Teeg is excellent against sweepers, in the sense that, your opponent can't play Wrath, can't play Earthquake, and lets you develop your board that way. With Voice is very punishing against the Blue Mage, especially. But a lot of decks are going to find themselves randomly getting tripped up by Voice. It's just going to... It makes it so much harder for your opponent to mess with your combat steps, and requiring them to... It almost works as like a weird little mini Teferi, kind of in a way. Like, you force them to play on their own turn in a lot of ways, and that's really powerful.
I mean, it depends on whether or not they fear your creatures.
If you're in green-white, they should be fearing your guys, right?
Okay. I'll let you finish your thought. Go on.
So, and on top of that, like, the fact that it replaces itself with a scaling creature when it dies, so even if you do get wrathed, you're bummed, but you can rebound from it very quickly, especially, like, ideally if you have some kind of token effect. Having voice in play, they wrath, you get the guy, and then, like, you untap Spectral Possession or something crazy like that, or, even crazier deranged tournament, like To Live the Dream, like, is very powerful. But even just, like, playing another guy, you still get to attack for 2, or playing multiple creatures, is going to make that guy way better. Also, obviously very good with equipment, because if they wrath, it still leaves a body behind to attach to equipment, kind of in a sort of body and mind kind of method.
Okay. You good?
Yeah.
You're good. All right. We talked about this one a lot in the past weekend. Other people have joined the conversation. I don't think voice is going to get included in the cube, and the reason why, we're going to compare it to Gaddock Teague most often, is here are my things. You want wrath protection. You think that, this guy is going to make it so your guys are protected, when in reality, you're going to get a 1/1 after the board is cleared. It's like, okay, well, now I'm going to go ahead and lay the creatures over my hand to make that guy big again. Game on, we're still attacking. But that's kind of the same lines of play that you would have if you were playing against what you would assume is going to be Wrath of God anyway. I think that you've just kind of maybe slowed your own game down a lot. Maybe you're holding back even more, and you don't really have any protection from voice because you're running into a Wrath of God. Well, okay, I had a 1/1, but now it's a 3/3 or 4/4. Now I lane my Deranged Tournament. But it's like you would have done that anyway. Like, this card didn't add anything extra to the game plan when your plan was to already hold back creatures to be able to attack. So I'm not sold on he's a Wrath protection card. I think where this card is best is for abusing players that are playing, like mono blue counter spells, where you don't need to go as far as that. I think you're already going to win with cards like Teague. He's the place where he shines the most. The player he's really beating up is the guy with Remove Souls, Mana Leaks, Mana Drains, all those cards in hand when you've resolved this card. And that to me, that's just not enough. As where Gaddock Teague stops Planeswalkers, he stops Moats, Cryptic Commands, Wrath of Gods, Comet Storms, Bonfires. He stops all of these cards, and he comes at things from such a unique angle that he can't be replaced by a creature that may have Persist.
I'm not saying you swap Teague out for voice.
I think when we get to the change list, that's the really only spot we could fit him in.
Yeah. That's certainly possible. I like voice. I think that even if he doesn't make an immediate entry into Cube, I think that he's, at the very least, on the bench. He's a first-string backup player.
There could be a time where this card gets included in Cube. I'm not saying its effect is terrible. I'm not saying it's unplayable.
I would at least like to see it. I would like to play around with it to some degree to see how
it does have positive interactions with Rebel Lark.
We all know how much that. Yeah.
I just think when we get to the initial change list, this guy just didn't make the cut. And part of the problem is that green-white is just so deep and so good, and they keep giving us more spoiler cards that are worth considering.
Yeah. All right. So moving on from that, Council of the Absolute,
not for us.
Renegade Crisis. Actually, I had someone on Twitter ask me about this one. That's why I stopped on it. So the question he was asking was whether or not we would consider this card for Cube, and the main reason is that green. His argument was that green's aggressive 3-drops are not. There are not a lot of them.
Yeah, having a 3-power guy for 3. I think if you play Cube a lot, the 3-drop spot is the hardest to evaluate across probably all of the colors. And this card is very good there. You're already getting 3 for 3. You're getting Evolve, so he can go even bigger. And you had to have that...
I don't know if that second line of text on him is really ever coming into play.
Whenever he evolves, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control that already has a +1/+1 counter on it. There are Undying guys. There are, Spike Weaver.
Sure.
Oh, there are
get
crazy.
Very few.
I mean, like, obviously, the goal is a Johnny Goldmain, put counters on all your guys.
Go crazy.
Do something with this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That being said, you know, I don't think Green's 3-drop slot is in the worst place. I think that it's kind of a weird split between...
If this guy was a 2-3, no.
Aggressive.
I just want to Revel Arc him. I just want to Revel Arc everything.
It's kind of a weird blend of kind of aggressive beaters and value guys. Like, on one side you have Troll Ascetic and Wolfear Avenger, and on the other side you have Eternal Witness and Yavimaya Elder. And, you know, if you really wanted to try and, like, angle aggressive green, then maybe you could say, like, I'll cut Elder and play this guy because he's got more power or whatever. But I think in our cube, I don't think it's necessarily going to make the cut over the cards that are already there. It's certainly okay. I would not be surprised to see it in cubes, especially if you had more of a +1/+1 counter kind of thing going on.
Well, we have Township, we have a Johnny, we have other Johnny. There are things out there that just put counters on dudes, and it kind of boils down to, you know, how does a 3-drop spot look?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, you know, I'm not snapping it off. It's not an auto-include, but tis a fine card.
Yeah. Far and away, like it.
Get right in there.
Oh, yeah.
That card is in the cube.
That card is weird. Yeah. I mean, just the pure value and tempo out of that thing is awesome. Both sides are fine. I've been wanting more bounce anyway, so that's perfect.
It's so hard to find unsummons to put in a cube, and you know, I half expected the far side to just be a creature you control.
Yeah, like
really,
a what was that from Peel from Reality kind of setup? Like if you
yeah,
were to cast
bounce the
both
guy,
sides.
yeah. I was thinking also like Call to Heal or something, where it's like it's only beneficial on your side.
Far
and away,
very good.
Far and away, an excellent card.
We'll get into what we're cutting in a minute.
Yes,
after we talk about the spoilers. Okay, so next two.
Oh, over the weekend we got 2 horribly expensive Magic cards to cast that I don't think are going to make it in the cube. Sorry.
So Progenitor Mimic, it costs 6. You know, we're already not playing Prime Speaker Zagana, and that I think would probably see play before this one, even though it is harder to cast.
Enough said.
Yeah.
It's a 6-mana clone with Followed Footsteps attached to it. It's a slow-moving machine. 6-mana clones have to be already really cool. I'd almost want Spitting Image before. I'd almost want Spitting Image before this, just because the retrace can kind of go different directions. You know, a long time ago we played Splitting Image, although from there it would be a hybrid card, evaluate differently. Either way, 6-mana clones.
Very expensive.
Yeah.
Plasm Capture, a.k.a. Fixed Mana Drain.
So we talked a lot about this one too over the weekend, and it was funny because everyone was like, "Oh yeah, it's cool. Like, yeah, let's, you know, I want to play with this." But ultimately, the conversation kind of boiled down to, so now you're the guy with 2 green and 2 blue up every turn.
Yeah, like trying to like bluff this one is a weird thing.
It seems like this will get telegraphed a lot. I mean,
yeah.
Void Slime is a great example of you kind of start to see it coming.
Right, it's very obvious that they're like having to spend 2 minutes to figure out how to
like
how
to tap your mana, and then every turn they keep passing with blue green. This one is even more obvious.
Yeah.
And to what end? Like, what's the reward there? If you already have access to blue green, what are you gonna then untap and just
you really need more colored mana to just like go nuts with?
Yeah, I mean we all know what the potential is, but just how realistic are those things happening? I mean, like Plasm capturing untapped Necropotence. Boom.
Bold. White Sun Zenith.
So yeah, that's not going to happen.
Alive and well.
Not going to happen. A whole bunch of 3-mana rocks, which we aren't going to play.
We already don't play all the key runes, and making a guy is better than drawing a card.
Yeah, I think that's yeah, we could say that. Making a thing be a creature is better than having to get 2 colors of mana to have to sack to cycle.
It is. I did briefly think about, in the colors that we're not playing key rune, to play the Cluestone in that spot if we wanted to try and keep that symmetry, but it's not worth it.
And I initially considered that over the weekend because we thought you didn't have to tap it to sacrifice it.
Yeah, so
like
you can tap for mana.
Yeah, you can tap for one
mana.
of the colors, just pay the other color and draw a card. And to me, that was like maybe worth talking about.
Yeah. Then they got worse, and it's like give and take.
Yeah, I don't even think that one's really worth stopping and talking about.
Now, Legion's Initiative.
So a lot of people are really excited about this card, and from what I can understand, it's gotta just be the sacrifice part, right?
Why is this mythic?
It does something really cool. Like, exile all creatures you control at the beginning of the next combat. Return those creatures to the battlefield. So it's like, it's supreme verdict protection.
Sure.
I mean, it makes sense.
Mythic? I don't know.
Whatever. It doesn't matter that it's mythic here.
I know. I just well, annoying. Anyway,
it's wrath protection.
Yeah, sure.
It's wrath protection for maybe 4 mana, maybe 2 mana now, maybe 2 mana later.
But red-white already has wrath protection in Boros Charm.
Touche. Touche.
I mean, this thing's okay, but Sam thinks it's very good. I just don't. I don't know. I just don't see it. I mean, who knows? I've been wrong before.
I did not go to Snap Include. I mean, if you want to compare it to Boros Charm, it can kind of outreach it, giving your creatures Orcish Oriflamme and Mini Castle, I guess. I didn't see it so much that way. I definitely saw it as kind of a one-shot Voyeur Staff or whatever, where your guys all do their EPD, enter the battlefield, triggers one more time, and maybe you Wrath Dodge once. That seemed like a fine ability. It also is weird that it would be a 2-color ability. I think for me that limits it a lot more. I mean, you can get real nasty and, Fiend Hunter's ability on the stack, sack your stuff, you get back a Restoration Angel, and there's obviously a lot of cool tricks there.
You could go very deep on that.
When you blink your whole board, that's really cool. It's just a little weird that it's red-white. Like, if it was blue-white, I'd be a little more inclined to try to make this happen. Reaching into a 3rd color in red to make it happen, it feels a little bit more awkward. And for that, I initially kind of left it on the sideline.
Yeah. Savageborn Hydra
does not have any kind of evasion.
Pass. Same with Tajik, Blade of the Legion.
Oh wow! I thought when he was spoiled, he was a red, white, and 1.
Oh no, sir.
He's a 4 mana.
Yeah.
So indestructibility is very good. When I look at this guy, he reminds me a lot of that dude from Champions of Kamigawa, the white one.
Which one?
He's like a 3/3 with Bushido 5, indestructible, vigilance.
Oh yeah, the guy that costs 7 or something?
Yeah. So in that regard, well, hey, look, prices kind of came down. Like, you can have an indestructible big attacker guy for way less than 7 mana.
With the low additional cost of 2 other guys that are attacking?
Well, he's always indestructible.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, he just seems... He's okay. Red-white's surprisingly deep right now.
Yeah, he's not going to make it in the queue, but I think when I initially heard about him, I think that people around me were kind of shitting on him a lot more than he really needs to be.
Indestructible is definitely worth noting, but I think that,
he lives through Wrath, he lives through Jockle Hops,
yeah,
Devastation, etc.
Again, Indestructible, very good. Red-white's best color combination for it.
Yeah.
Possibility Storm.
Not a possibility.
I see you've been working on that one. Blood Baron of Vizkopa.
I like this card.
Yeah, pro-white, pro-black is excellent on anything.
Yeah.
Lifelink, also strong.
Yeah.
Big guy all the time. I like the random murder you instantly clause is kind of hilarious.
So, obviously when we're evaluating it, especially for Cube, we're not looking at the last part of the card. And for black-white, you have 30 and opponent has 10. Like, let's be real, son. But he does have lifelink, so I guess you could get there. It's a kind of a cute bonus kill you out of nowhere.
Yeah.
It's really what it is. Like, you thought this game was going to go a little bit longer, well, now you're dead.
Nope.
But I'm going to talk about the positives. The fact that he's a vampire could come back to being relevant one day. You've got a 4/4 for 5, so you're already middle of the road as far as card evaluation in a vacuum.
Lifelink, bonus.
Lifelink is really key for black decks. Then you've got pro-white and pro-black, and if Stillmoon Cavalier has taught us anything, having those is sweet.
Yeah, it is always good.
You just found your win condition in an Abyss deck.
Yeah. Also super relevant.
Yeah.
Especially in white-black, which is the most common part for that deck.
So much talk about Notion Thief.
again, I feel like this would be a snap include if you could get their draw step.
Well, that would be badong.
It'd be very good.
You can't do that.
What? You can already kind of get their draw step with click.
They would never draw a card again. It's game over. You ass.
I mean...
This card is spectacular for Standard. It's positioned for that. It's another one of those ways to battle...
okay. Actually, so the reason I said that is that I thought that was the trigger only the turn it comes into play.
No.
I didn't realize it was a permanent thing that is always the case.
Yeah, it is forever and always.
Alright. So, I am now going to need to take a step back and reevaluate that card. Pretty sweet.
So, yeah, obviously you're going to get the most value when you surprise it. Baby Jason him is okay. Yeah, sure.
That's real sweet. +2, draw 2?
Well, you're activating it on your turn. What card did your opponent draw during your turn already?
Oh, yeah. No. Oh. No. The opponent would draw a card except the first one he or she draws in each of his or her draw steps. So all other cards they draw.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so +2 draw 2.
Alright, we both need to read the card.
Yeah.
I assumed it was like plagiarized.
No.
So that's slightly better.
I mean, he's good, but...
I mean, I wish he was a 2/4, but maybe that's asking a lot.
Even if he was a 2/2.
It doesn't matter to us. Come on, we're playing cube. Does 1 toughness or 2 toughness matter that much?
Going from 1 toughness to 2 toughness is pretty relevant.
No, it's not. It's not relevant.
Anyway.
CMC3 would be really good. We already have a Vendilion Click.
Yeah,
I don't want another guy that's that similar to Vendilion Click. Yeah. At least at 4 mana, like, you kind of have to think about it. I think that, if there was a long time ago we played Wind, the Binding Gale or whatever.
Yeah, and that was, I mean, honestly, that card, obviously is not there anymore, but, the blue-black deck especially is keeping all of its mana up all the time. So having Flash...
Yeah, this card would be badonk if it had Flying or Unblockability or Intimidate or any other ability attached to this card. Like, it becomes a real threat. Without those things on it, especially when evaluating for cube, he's gonna, hopefully draw a couple cards at a time where your opponent's gonna draw, and he's probably gonna trade with something in combat on the blocks. He's not gonna, be getting in there a whole bunch... unless you're playing against the control decks that you're already beating up on. Like, this guy goes from being good to ridiculous in a very short span because you're playing against very narrow decks where he can be that way, as opposed to evaluating him against the field is a lot harder. And I think that one of the reasons this card also isn't an auto include for cube is that against those red decks, against those white decks, against those green decks,
right, he's just a 3/1 for Flash. Flash.
He's just a elephant ambush something.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Okay, but not stellar.
Yeah.
Warped Physique.
Not happening.
We already don't play Agony Warp.
I would play Agony Warp over that card.
Nimic Cyclops.
I kind of stopped on this guy a lot more than I thought I was going to stop on him. For starters, it's super sweet that he's getting Abrupt Decade.
Yeah,
I love those I love artwork played together.
Artwork references.
Yeah, those are great. And it would have to be a legal target. Like if this guy cost 4 mana and he was a different card,
they were sending a sternly worded letter.
There was outrage.
Yeah,
outrage. He has to function properly.
I mean, is this really better than We Dragonauts?
It's not about being better than We Dragonauts. It's about being very similar to Convertible Turtle.
He is quite the Convertible Turtle.
For the record, love Calcite Snapper.
I know you do, but
I mean, I already draft a little too much blue. So, a Shrouded Horned Turtle that can also kind of win games out of nowhere is awesome.
Yeah.
And this guy is surprisingly close to that. You're going to have a great wall early. You're going to have the great opportunity to play a wall while leaving counter magic up.
And then you might just get him.
Always going to have that threat of... because they're always going to attack into it. You're going to be able to eat their guys for free. Now you're going to be able to cast far and away, bounce one of their guys, make them sack a guy, then declare blocks, then eat another guy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of opportunities for this card to be a big blowout.
Does Fuse Cannon has 2 spells? It's just 1. Okay. Let's leave it there.
Sorry, I'm nodding silently. I should really tell the podcast audience that when you fuse a spell, it is but 1 spell.
Deadbridge Chant. Very powerful.
It's funny, Deadbridge Chant we've been talking about You Make the Card submissions before we saw this card, and then it actually does one of the things that we were really interested in trying to do with You Make the Card, which is mill 10 off your library when an enchantment enters the battlefield, which I thought was really cool. I still think this card is just too overcosted, and this just isn't for us.
Sorry, addressing the chat.
Yes. We have a question about why we don't play music while we stream. And that is because the vast majority of our audience listens to this after the fact. So if there was some strange musical choices for our podcast audience, I don't know how much they would like that.
Maze Guys, whatever. Undiscovered Clues.
Undiscovered Clues, not gonna get it done.
Sorcery. Instant, maybe. Vaishino, First Blade.
Not gonna get it done.
Amara, Tandris, also not going to get it done. Holy God, is it not going to get it done.
Poor this card.
Everyone was so amped because it was like all the other like Maze Runner legends, air quotes, got spoiled well before this one. So everyone was kind of like, what's it going to do? What's it going to do? What's it going to do? And it's horrible.
See, it's funny to me. I look at this card, I looked in the artwork, and that was one of the things that had come up on, Reddit earlier weeks ago. It was almost like, oh, the token that you can see when they spoil the token. Like, the token's in the background. It's obviously going to, like, make tokens or do something really cool. I definitely did not expect this card to cost 7 mana. Nowhere in a strange... What's the... I never read Lord of the Rings. What's her name's character?
Oh, Arwen? Who are you talking about?
Not Arwen.
I don't... Anyway. It's bad. Whatever reference doesn't matter. This card sucks. It's not going to make it into cube, not even close.
You just picture this elf person not being a 5/7 for 7.
She's either like, this picture is scaled weird, she's like 13 feet tall, or she's just like on the roids. Or this picture is inaccurate because this is a mock-up.
Galadriel.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't watched Lord of the Rings in too long.
Yeah. Okay, so we've talked enough about this.
Pretty sure this cost 5. If this cost 5, it would still be completely unplayable.
With a 5 mana 5/7? I mean, that'd be better.
Agreed. It's just so weird because, like, I want, like, a card like that could be good, even in cube. There are enough. Like, we push tokens a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It just is a vanilla 5/7 for 7. Is just like, what happened? Like, this one feels like it has to be fake. Like, looking at this card, like, it's got to be wrong.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was, to be honest. Like,
it still says mock-up.
Yeah. It might be
and
wrong.
Granted, MTG spoilers, or sorry, Mythic spoiler. Like, shout out to them.
They're very good.
They are very good, so I kind of trust them.
All right, catch and release.
Boom, baby, love it.
I love it too. This is a great amount of flexibility. Getting planeswalkers, target player sacrifices a planeswalker is basically as good as destroy target planeswalker unless you're really losing.
Yeah, this is a great way to kind of cheat the destroy a planeswalker kind of thing. We always joke that you want to Zealous Conscripts that Tameo just as she's about to go off, etc., etc. And just the catch side of catch and release, because when you look at catch and release, it's a lot of freaking mana to make that thing happen completely, to fuse it.
I mean, 9 mana is a lot, but at the same time, like, both sides are fine.
Yeah, this is the first fuse card where each independent side is surprisingly different and plays different, and I'm happy casting either side just by itself.
Yeah.
But, obviously putting them together is huge. I really like this card. And it's kind of the Cataclysm we always want, but you can get a Planeswalker.
Right. It's like reverse Cataclysm.
Yeah, I guess. It's like Super Edict.
Yeah.
It's like the card, like...
Decimate?
Yeah, but actually good.
Decimation
has
Edict.
to target.
Decimation Edict?
Decimate will never make it in cube because you can't cast
target
part of it.
Yeah.
So I really like Catch and Release, and it fits into that great 3-color section that we have difficulty working with.
Yeah.
Razia's Purification. I remember that card being bad.
Oh.
Yeah, Razia's Purification, for those who don't know, it's a red, a white, and 4 colorless. Each player chooses 3 permanents and then sacrifices the rest. It always felt to me like a win more card. Like, are my 3 cards better than your 3 cards?
Right.
Let's go for it. And at any point in time, if you're at parity or worse yet behind, you can't cast it.
It doesn't help you catch up.
Right.
Because, like, they still just keep their fatty boom-booms.
Yeah. I guess against decks where you're afraid they're about to make shit go down.
I mean, I
And
guess
you have
like,
6 mana?
against tokens, like they just puke a bunch of tokens into play.
I'd rather have a Steer Command. I'd rather have Otter. So you're saying it's better than Jockalops?
I'd rather have Jockalops.
I'd rather set up a Jockalops than try to set up a Razia's Purification. Like, I have more control over Jockalops than I do that card.
Yeah. War Leader's Helix.
Giant Lightning Helix.
Super Helix.
If by giant you mean double the mana cost
for one
more the damage.
Yeah. Like, yeah. And then lastly, Wake the Reflections. No.
So I haven't played a whole lot of RTR Limited, but isn't there a card that costs like 1 more colorless mana that does something? Isn't Rootbound Defenses like?
Yeah, it's there's Rootbound Defenses, which is 3. Just creatures you control are indestructible.
And it's an instant.
It's an instant.
Okay.
There's also like a Fog for 2 mana
that you also populate. Yeah, I don't even see how this card is good in regular Limited unless.
Druid's
Deliverance. Yes.
Advent of the Worm, baby.
Right.
I'm gonna make me some 5/5s.
So is that we are up to the moment.
Yeah, we are up to the moment.
On Dragon's Maze spoilers.
Nope, nothing new.
Still up to the moment.
So that was the Dragon Maze spoilers up to this point.
It's great. I mean, I think at this point we have some definite includes. We have some great kind of debate points to talk about for the next few weeks, where we before we go into potential changes. So ultimately, this time of the update season, this time of the year, we bounce ideas back and forth, and ultimately we come up with what is the initial list to be changed when the next set is released. And this time around, the list is pretty huge, but it doesn't really have much to do with Dragon's Maze, although it progressively will become more to do with Dragon's Maze. Right now, it has mostly to do with Black and trying to help Black out as usual, bring it different directions, do other things with it. You guys don't mock up prop season jam games before real cards come out. We're too lazy.
Yeah.
It really boils down to laziness.
I mean, we could, but meh.
Laziness.
So,
it's a long
list
of things that could potentially change.
So this is the email, the official email sent directly to me. Spelling errors included of the change. Now, I don't want to go through every single one of these out loud for the audio side. I apologize. There's about 60 changes on this list. I will post the list to the blog as at least like a...
And we'll update it along the way as we go.
Yeah, it will change over the next couple weeks, but this is kind of the preliminary first look of where we're starting from. This is a big list. This is much more in terms of changes than we're normally getting.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at like 65 card change.
But we're doing a fairly large Black overhaul and changing a number of other things.
Well, I think that the two big chunks of changes come from Black and probably, in all likelihood, finally taking out the bounce lands.
Yeah.
Which has been a conversation of, maybe a month coming at this point.
So let's go straight into Black, since that's the biggest section of changes.
You don't want to Wooburg it, since we can go by the top part pretty easily.
All right, fine. You want to Wooburg it? Fine.
I'm going to Wooburg it because I'm going to say, I'm going to probably just touch briefly on the cards. Pulse of the Fields I want to bring in because we're bringing more with like Black Life Loss. White is maybe going to go a little bit more the control route. I think Pulse has room to grow and do other things as we're going to pay more life for cards. Momentary Blink is a long time coming just because we're adding so many more of the ETB cards. I left it out for a long time because I thought it was too narrow and it was a one-shot too often, but I think that one-shot is just reaching its potential. And having added Intuition, you can now put it in your graveyard and still get use out of it there. Condemn over Sunlance just to kind of have more of that life gain. Ranger of Eos for more reach in white. Step Links, since we're probably bringing in the Mirage bounce lands, the landfall creatures get a little bit better. And lastly, Descendant of Kimomaro, just because, if Moto's going to give it a shot, I'm going to try to give it a shot. And it has a lifelink attached to it.
Not exactly.
Oh, sorry. Well,
you could give it lifelink.
Yeah,
awesome.
that is double baller as long as you have enough cards in your hand. Coming over to blue. Blue is far and away the hardest color to change. It's almost impossible to do it. Eck has finally convinced me the clone is a little too slow. It's in its dying days. So we're going to bring back the big crusher, Una. She's Queen of the Fae. She's been around for a long time. She came out probably like a year ago. We're bringing her back. Bring another win condition. It's another way to cheat a black card in the cube. Seal removal, we talked about a lot. We want more bounce. It was either that or Into the Royal. I'm going to give seal removal a shot here just because with some of the blue decks, 1-drops are hard to find. Being able to use it to mana effectively. Bringing back Confiscate, as it always feels like we're adding more Planeswalkers to the cube. Let's give another shot at them. And last but not least on blue is Probe. I think Probe is awesome. And it finally gets a chance. It's a good, single blue goes into so much stuff. Adding black discard is awesome. There we go. That brings us through the notables on blue and white right now. You'll notice that there are no Gatecrash cards there. We don't have a lot in the monocolor section to even really touch on, let alone...
And we already have all of our Gatecrash cards in.
Oh, did I say Gatecrash? I meant Dragon's Maze. Sorry, yeah. I meant Dragon's Maze. Alright. This list is updated with today's trailers for Dragon's Maze as the would-bes. So, coming to black, we're looking more at interacting with the graveyard. We're looking more at giving black back more of its big sweepers. We tried to push a land destruction package, but it was just too narrow. It didn't lend to a number of diverse draft strategies black could be a part of.
They were consistently either one person took all of them or no one took any of them.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
no one was playing like just Rain of Tears. You know what I mean? Like
heads up, we would.
Well, sure,
but when you play more 8-mans,
mostly people wanted all of them or none of them, and that's just not a great place for cube cards.
Yeah, so we on the spell side, we're bringing in a kind of a new removal suite. A couple of those cards kind of help out with Obsidats. We've got Victim of Night and Diabolic Edict coming back. I really missed Decree of Pain when it was gone. I think it's a huge reach card for black, and it does a ton. So Decree of Pain is coming back. Mutilate is also coming back to kind of give black more of that control sweeper element. We talked a lot about how Damnation is so hard to replicate. We have Ultimate Price, Ambition's Cost.
Grave Pact is coming in.
Grave Pact is...
Prepare yourself.
Is probably the most ambitious because it's trying to reward those black creature decks.
It's really exciting.
Okay, Eck is very excited by Grave Pact, which is cool.
In the sense that, that's a really powerful effect to give the black sacrifice creature deck.
It is very black.
It is very triple black.
It's very black.
It is, tough. But, the reward is very big.
Moving over to the creature side, we've got Bane of the Living and Massacre Worm to go for those sweepers. For a long time, I thought Bane was too slow, but now kind of with the Oversold Cemetery, Oath of Ghouls angle, I think that it gives us another chance to kind of have a recursive, kill effect. Were the others on the fence that we discussed? There was definitely a lot of discussion on Twitter about things that we're on the fence about. I mean, again, not even all of these cards are like for sures. This is just kind of the first draft of changes, and this will get bounced back between people in the Cube League. We show it to them, see what they think. Obviously, we'll exchange heated emails about it, but hopefully we'll talk mostly about it on the show.
More graveyard recursion in the form of Reassembling a Skeleton and Icarid.
And more like graveyard interaction. We got Fleshbag Marauder, and then finally Undercity Informer, which I wanted to go as far as adding like Balustray Spy and cool stuff like that. And
this is an interesting one. I don't know how good it's going to be, but I think that it's definitely not something I can predict without seeing it in play. This guy is either going to be... He's either going to last one update or be in for a long time. I don't see him... I see him either, flying high or crashing and burning.
All right.
This is the way I see it.
I mean, sure, there are going to be games where you just have a 2/3. I have not considered Pawn of Ulamog yet. I will consider Pawn of Ulamog.
Which one's Pawn of Ulamog?
He is the guy that makes drowsy guys. He make it a pawns.
Okay, so
there's a lot going on there with black, and because we're changing so much, we're losing some stuff. I mean, Sinkhole is finally going to bite the bullet here, which is surprisingly, I think we made this list like 2 weeks ago, and it's just been very recently has been the talk about, what is Sinkhole really a card in Cube anymore? What do things really look like?
Yeah.
Thoughtpicker Witch, Kravikan Horror, Nether Trader, Nether Shadow. Those are all cards we kind of deem to be a little too deep at the moment. But we may come back and reassess them depending on how these new graveyard interactions work.
The other card I want to try and work into this list for this change in terms of graveyard recursive things is Nether Trader.
Okay.
The haste shadow guy for 2.
Yeah. He's so small. He's so small.
He's small. It's a bit deep, but it's another way to get stuff from your graveyard back.
So Red's changes are pretty. I mean, they're like we have one creature for like the big red decks, bringing back Crater Hellion. This is a creature that's been in and out of cube a lot, and we've also got some slightly more. We have one more efficient just creature kill spell to kind of keep the tempo going in Flame Slash. And we've brought in some 2-drops actually because I noticed that the 2-drop section in Red was lacking. So we were bringing back Plate of Geopeep because we had the fetch lands, Stormblood Berserker for just a 2-drop, and Tin Street Hooligan for kind of an amalgamation of those things. Artifact Destruction.
I will say I'm sad to see Jessica go.
All right.
I like Jessica.
Yeah, we played Jessica for a long time, and I felt like a lot of people didn't. And lastly, we have Devil's Play over the Demon Fire,
which is
a conversation we had on the show weeks ago. So there you can see conversation in action. Over on the green side,
very small changes.
Small changes, but kind of giving a little more diversity to green. We're bringing in Awakening Zone as we see, Undercity Informer show up. We see Opposition try to get a little more flavor. We try to give Ramp a little bit more of an angle. And again, just bring a different kind of element to green we didn't have there before. We've also got Nature's Lore, the poor man's 3 visits, as it were, as another green accelerant fixer. Just kind of taking out kind of some of the pump spells that didn't see as much action as we wanted to, so we'll try to push things in a different direction. But we did want to bring in a card for aggressive decks and kind of give them a different angle, and it was either Moldervine Cloak or Boar Umbra, so we brought in Boar Umbra this time.
Moldervine Cloak used to be in.
Yeah.
It's gone in and out.
I think Boar Umbra is worth giving a shot to here.
That's just a change of pace.
Yeah.
And if it ends up being not as good, we can always go back to Moldervine Cloak.
Why would you play 3 visits over Nature's Lore? Nature's Lore is black bordered. 3 visits is never black bordered.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's just like it feels like it's strictly inferior.
Artifacts.
We dropped some of the key runes that we felt like weren't doing a whole lot. I think Celestia Key Rune was really the poster child for I'm in a color that already either plays a bunch of creatures or already ramps better than this card. Why am I here?
Yeah.
Similar to Simic Key Rune, I think the only reason we are rocking the Portal one of Nature's Lore, just FYI. So, Eck convinced me to cut Clearwater Goblet, but if we're going to cut Clearwater Goblet, we're going to bring in something super sweet and awesome in 5-color. Etch Monstrosity, get in there!
Also works well with Wildfire.
It does work well with Wildfire.
Yeah, I mean, it's 5/5 for 5 an artifact, which is surprisingly difficult to come by.
Yeah.
There's been some very heated gatherers searching, looking for winners.
This bleeds into the topic of Grid Monitor. Grid Monitor is probably like one of the cards that has come in and out of Cube the most of maybe any card.
For sure.
I think if we had a list of the number of times things have switched in and out, Grid Monitor might be number 1.
Yeah.
I love Grid Monitor. I love control decks. I remember playing him in the past in control decks and minor success. I just love him, and I want to give him another shot. He's like a poor man's moat.
Also coming in is Olive Dust.
All is Dust.
All is Dust, right.
Yeah, Mindslaver is finally coming out. It's just way too slow. No one plays with it anymore.
Throne of Amethyst for Platinum Angel.
Yeah, we're losing Platty Greaves. It's finally time to wave goodbye, set sail on those cards.
Yeah.
I'm really going to miss them.
Artisan of Kozilek, also another sweet one.
Yeah, one more kind of like ramp target, but it's not... I mean, I just like the Eldrazi. I think that's really what it boils down to. I like the Annihilator effect. I like if you're not going to have evasion, you're going to do something else for me.
So Gold's getting some changes now. This is the section that is most likely to change further from this point, depending on what else gets spoiled in Dragon's Maze. You never know when something crazy is going to pop up.
Yeah. So starting, I think it's finally time to take the Sphinx's Revelation plunge. I stayed away from it for a long time because I felt like it was really slow. I felt like it was surprisingly narrow. If it targeted a player, it'd be a different story in my mind. But I think there's been articles on the Mothership that talked about that. But I'm going to give it a shot. A lot of people just kind of expect to see it who play in Cube. So we'll try it. I'm not super excited about it, but who knows. Far and Away, we mentioned it already on the show. That's going in for sure. Skarg Guildmage, I'm pretty amped on, actually.
That's an interesting one.
I wanted to give Red-Green a little bit more reach than it was getting, but I wanted to do it in an aggressive fashion. And having a 2/2 for 2 that also makes your lands attack, I think is something that's really overlooked right now in kind of the red-green strategies in Cube, especially because there didn't feel like there were that many red-green strategies. So trying to give him another angle of attack.
Olivia Voldaren coming in.
Yeah.
Flying Masticore.
So obviously red-black Rakdos. We've talked about how deep that color combination is and how surprisingly redundant it is on all of its effects. There are so many cards out there that are red and black and 2 colorless that it's hard to pick a few of them to include. I mean, I still miss Hellhole Rats.
I do too. I love me a Hellhole Rats.
But I still really like Toil and Trouble, and this is one that we are not in agreement on. I think that it's going to give a lot of versatility, and it's going to do a lot more than Eck thinks.
I think it's slow. I think that you want to... I would put Blightning in over Toil and Trouble. Most of my red-black decks don't get to 6 mana very reliably, so fusing that's not going to happen all that often. But we'll see. One of the interesting things about new cards is you're never 100% sure how they're going to play until you...
I have a soft spot for Sudden Impact.
Yeah.
I do. It's weird. I mean, granted, the original Sudden Impact, I remember back when Vin was playing Astral Slide all the time, it was like Astral Slide versus Psychotog, and he would have a hard time winning that matchup. He would board into Sudden Impacts, so that when your opponent upheavaled, you'd get him for like 18 or something really gross. Not that you needed that much damage, but that was a sweet one. And that's maybe a bit of a callback. We'll see.
Green and White's getting Sigarda, 5/5 flyer that you can't get rid of. Seems pretty good.
Yeah, talking about Celestia, we knew that we were going to be able to cut Nishoba and Wake. We just weren't sure which 2 cards were going to go in, because we felt like we had those 2 spots to cut. Advent of the Worm, that elk-making guy, what's his name? I've already forgotten.
Voice of Resurgence.
Voice of Resurgence.
I really like Tristani's Summoner as a guy who... He's a good ramp target, he's a great blink target, he's a great reanimation target, he's a great sneak attack guy.
And I think that's really kind of how he won our hearts and minds.
We just kept talking about that card and envisioning new and exciting ways for him to enter the battlefield or leave the battlefield.
Right.
And as we kept talking about it, he kind of elbowed his way in over Advent of the Worm.
When it's all said and done, if it ends up being too slow, I have no problem switching it out for Advent of the Worm. But I really think there's so many different ways to make Tristani's Summoner good, and there's so many... I mean, it's just a fun card that it felt like we had to give it a day. And so, I mean, right now, it feels like it's a home run. But who knows?
Ralzeric.
Got talked into that one.
Got talked into it.
We
talked about him last week, and we were critical, over the course of the show, and then also over the course of the week, on Twitter and other places, people kind of hammered it home to give it a shot.
I mean, it's still he's kind of like this weird red-blue rampant growth thing that
I don't think he's going to be...
I'm not overly excited about it. I just think that red-blue doesn't do enough.
He's probably going to be better than what we were originally evaluating him as, but worse than what most people are evaluating him as.
I don't know.
Somewhere in that middle.
I almost would rather include the new Cyclops. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
That guy lives through Slagstorm. He lives through Earthquake for 3, which is a big deal. Rolling Earthquake for 3.
After you cast Earthquake.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Kill your opponent's guys. Your opponent takes 3, and then he takes 4 more.
Blood Baron of Vizkopa.
We talked about that already on the show.
Oh, very good. Gerard's Verdict. The Orzhov Charm Experiment, I feel... it was worth experimenting with, but I feel like that card was it was singular moded. No one ever really returned a guy that cost 1, and very rarely did guys get bounced.
Guys got bounced. It did stuff. I just think that part of what we're trying to do with black and trying to give white-black more options. It sounds weird because Orzhov's Charm sounds like it's options, but I think actually Gerard's Verdict is where we'd rather be right now.
Plus, just being able to get card advantage in black-white is so key.
Right.
Right. And then Catch Release for Damia. Ding Dong, The Witch is Dead.
I could cut another 3-color card if you're going to give me more sass.
Catch Release should be very good. The flexibility in that card, and if you ever get to fuse it, it's a huge game.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. I think playing Catch Release, either side of it is what's really just great, and for that, I don't even need the fuse part.
Yeah, and then we've got...
So,
all the Ravaging Block Bounce lands are coming out.
Yeah, we thought about cutting 3, we thought about cutting 5, we thought about cutting 0. Ultimately, after the conversation about Mirage fetch lands and how exciting it was to explore that space, it was like, okay, well, we're adding 5 allied lands, and we're not necessarily getting a whole lot out of the enemy side of the bounce lands. Although I do think that red, white, and green, black are 2 of the best enemy bounce lands.
Blue, red.
You like blue, red a lot? Eh.
Anyway.
So, ultimately, we were like, you know what? We need to speed things up. And one of the things we kind of noticed about why control decks had a bit of an edge over aggressive decks, where they were just, things were slower because of the lands. So by adding the Innistrad, what do you call it? You call them check lands or frenemy lands?
I've heard
what do people call them?
Buddy lands.
Okay.
Something like that.
I just call them the Innistrad M10 duels, which is stupidly wordy.
Yeah, so that the enemy colored, you need the one of...
Yeah, the Isolated Chapel, Clifftop Retreat. Harbor. Yeah, that cycle is going in conjunction with the Mirage fetch lands.
Which are allied color.
I think overall this is actually going to make for a better fixing scenario, and hopefully kind of speed things up just a little bit, unlike having the 10 bounce lands. And it's also good timing because we're cutting a lot of the black LD, and some of the advantages of LD in the cube in general were just...
keeping bounce lands in check.
So
other than that, Phyrexian Tower is coming in.
We're giving it a shot.
We're playing... We're working on the Black Sacrifice effect, things we can do to make that more interesting. Who knows? That one's definitely the most kind of a shot in the dark. It might be great.
We don't have a lot to lose, though. Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it. Like, it's
no one was playing Tech Edge, so if no one plays Phyrexian Tower, then nothing will change. Gaze Cradle for Core Haven. I like Cradle. I think that it's a very powerful card that works well in the deck that it exists in. Core Haven occasionally would see a little bit of relevance, but it was just...
I don't know, it's funny, like, we put it on the list, like, 2 weeks ago, and then, like, every draft we've run since then, Core Haven has been in somebody's deck, and it's been good.
That always happens as soon as you start talking about it.
No, it's not. Look at how many cards are on this list. Not all those cards showed up and started being good.
Kildoran Outpost is making its way back in.
Academy Ruins is so slow, and it's so narrow. I mean, especially we're cutting Mindslaver, so, like...
That was, like, the last gasp.
No, Chaos Orb is really where the nuts are.
Sure. I mean, one of those two. The fact that it now is not nearly as good.
Yeah, Academy Ruins is a 15th pick so many times. And, just trying to help tokens out a little bit more. So, giving back the Outpost. And, again, cutting the LD. Just made its way out of my queue. Well, we just cut a bunch of LD, so we're going to give it another shot.
Outpost used to be in, and then it was out of ours for a long time. Give it another shot.
Yeah.
It might not... I mean, it might just not do enough, which was kind of the reason that we cut the first time around.
Which is weird because I'm always trying to give the non-counterspell decks more angles of attack, and I think that Outpost is one of those cards. But Outpost would often be a 2-for-1 LD scenario.
Yeah,
it's not incredibly slow; it's just not fast. Also known as slow.
Also coming in, Bazaar of Baghdad.
Most excited card. This is the card I'm most excited to play with. I think that.
It should definitely be...
high. I've considered Yome Hello many times, but you're killing my buzz here. I got to talk about how excited I am about Bazaar of Baghdad. Bazaar of Baghdad.
It'll be interesting. I'm curious to see, our regular cube players. Many of them are on the newer side in terms of when they started playing Magic. In the last 3, 4, 5 years. I'm curious to see how many of them can properly use Bazaar.
It says exactly what to do on it.
Right, but that's it's not something you want to be activating all the time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if you drafted your deck right, you should be.
It's gonna be that is a skill tester card. I have a feeling.
I don't know. I mean, people know how to play with Mazavith. This is just a spell. It's a land. It says draw 2 and discard 3 on it. Math is not that hard.
Well, we'll see.
Well, there you have it. There is the initial proposed change list for what will be the Dragon's Maze spoiler update, despite the fact that very few cards on it are actually Dragon's Maze related.
So this will go up on the blog for those listening it afterwards.
It'll get updated as we update it. Again, this is kind of a bit of an insight onto how this process works for us leading up to each set. A lot of theory crafting between what we like, what we don't like, why we like it, how it compares to other draft strategies or cards, or how it fits into a curve. This is really the nuts and bolts of being able to create, maintain, update, and manage your own set, which is really exciting. And some of the most fun parts of Cube when you're not actually playing Magic. It's just that community side. So, we're under 2 hours currently, but we really managed a lot in this 2 hours. I feel like we did a lot. Went over the spoiler, updated you make the card, make sure you make your own submissions. Hope we get there, as Eck is posting.
Yeah,
Now,
I just put the list of our changes on the website.
Now for the business part, where can you find us, Eck?
You can find us at eckamon.blogspot.com. You can find us at twitch.tv/Eckamon. You can find us on YouTube. My username is Eckamon. You can find us on Twitter at YoungMecca, at Tristan Gregson. You can find us on Reddit. I post there pretty regularly for the Magic MTG Cube subreddit. If you are you are on MTG Cast, we are on iTunes. Again, and if you are, regardless of where you are listening to this from, subscribe in some way. Follow us on Twitch. Subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter. Subscribe to the RSS feed if you're on iTunes. The more people we have who are routinely following us, the better. It works for me for stats and things like that, and keeping an eye on our viewer counts and things like that.
Yes, we will. We are currently in the process of exploring sponsorships for the show. That way we can bring you more, so it's not just...
Speaking of bringing you more, May 1st, Magic Online, Cube returns.
And Eck goes broke
And Eck
simultaneously.
goes flat broke.
In the same
And I grow a
day.
beard. Even more of a beard, because I won't leave my computer. So I'll just be streaming all the time. You can just watch it grow. So May 1st, for that week, I'm going to be keep streaming as much as possible.
I'll come in and out as I can.
Yeah.
I don't live in Eck's bedroom, so it's a little bit harder for me to just hang out here and critique drafts.
So again, if you enjoy watching someone sit at a computer for 7 days consecutively, feel free to donate. There's a button on Twitch. There's a button on our website. Anything you can help, it all goes straight into my Moto account for Cube tickets.
It also goes into the show. Let's be real here, son.
Yeah.
We have costs we have yet to pay for on this thing.
Yeah.
Putting this thing together was not cheap.
Hosting and drafting are the two primary things that are going on.
Again, you make the donation, you make the call. If you want to send in Eck $5 and tell him, hey, get some Cube tickets, he will do that.
Sure.
You say, hey, get some lighting in there. Or, hey, this goes towards equipment to be able to stream a Cube draft from the Cube League.
Which is something we would like to do at some point.
Make your blog slightly better. These are all things we want to do. We just don't have the funds to do them. So again, we are exploring sponsorship opportunities so that we don't have to beg on the street, as it were. And then again, your subscriptions, your downloads, your interactions with the community go a long way there. So help us out whenever possible. If it's as simple as favoriting us on Twitch, if it's as simple as commenting on something.
Yeah, the hockey's really fun.
I'm good. I guess you can always have more. My joke with my wife was I was just going to get the reverse, because I have one of every team, but I only have like one version. So I have to get the home and the away.
They need like the throwbacks, the alternates.
Yeah, that's a road not traveled.
Yeah.
So again, I don't think that's part of the show, so I wouldn't really want to fund that with anything that comes in through here. But we've been nice enough to start to get the donation train rolling. We're going to try to get the sponsorship train to connect to that train and make a longer train of awesome stuff for you to consume here.
That was quite a way to put that.
At the Magic Box.
So, yeah. Again, thank you to everyone who's coming live. If you're listening to this after the fact, that's also great. If you have questions, shoot them at either of us. Leave us a message. Any of the places that you find this, email, Twitter, YouTube, wherever.
We're slowly getting the guest train moving. Jay Bush from the A-Team is waiting in the wings to join us.
As is Usman.
Usman I haven't talked to as much, and we almost had...
he has expressed interest.
We almost had Stubbs this week. We almost had Adam Staborski from thegatheringmagic.com from the Mothership for the new column he is writing there. people we'd love to have in the future, people that do their own cubing, we'll have back soon. So, until next week when we tell you about our amazing You Make the Card submissions that have been selected by Wizards of the Coast, and we'll tell you about all of the new Dragon's Base spoilers we're so excited to put in the cube, and we'll talk about the new debates we've had about cards we should change or not change,